The inheritor. The engine manifold was leaking again. Nora Valdez cursed under her breath as she wiped grimy hydraulic fluid from her hands. The ancient cooling system of Outpost Epsilon 9 had been jury-rigged so many times it resembled a mechanical Frankenstein more than functional equipment. But that's what happened when you were stationed at the ass end of the galaxy, working for a company that considered maintenance budget to be theoretical concepts. Nora pushed a strand of copper-red hair from her face, leaving a smudge of grease across her forehead. Once, she had been the youngest quantum propulsion specialist ever to graduate from the Galactic Engineering Academy. Now she spent her days patching together scrap parts and coaxing ancient hardware into functioning for one more cycle. The outpost's communication terminal chirped, an unexpected noise in the perpetual quiet of the station. Nora glanced up, frowning. Nobody called Epsilon 9. That was rather the point of being here. She wiped her hands on her coveralls and approached the terminal. The screen flickered, displaying an official-looking header, Interstellar Legal Authority Priority Transmission. "What the hell?" she muttered, pressing the accept button. The screen resolved into the stern face of a woman in a crisp gray uniform, her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Nora Valdez?" the woman asked, her voice clipped and formal. "That's me," Nora replied, confusion evident in her tone. "I am Director Vega of the Interstellar Legal Authority. We have been attempting to locate you for several weeks. You have been designated as the sole inheritor of the IWV Helios, pursuant to the last will and testament of Admiral Jackson Orion." Nora blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "Admiral Jackson Orion has listed you as the sole heir to his personal command vessel, the warship Helios," Director Vega repeated, her expression unchanging. Nora's mind raced. Admiral Orion, the legendary fleet commander who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances 3 years ago. His ship, the Helios, was even more legendary, a prototype warship with technology so advanced that rumors claimed it was partly sentient. And Nora had never met the man. "There must be some mistake," she said. "I didn't know Admiral Orion. I've never even been in the military." "There is no mistake, Ms. Valdez. The Admiral's will was quite specific. A transport will arrive at your location within 6 hours to convey you to the Helios. You will be required to interface with the ship's systems to complete the transfer of ownership." "Interface? What does that mean?" "All will be explained upon your arrival at the Helios," Director Vega said. "Do you accept this inheritance, Ms. Valdez?" A sensible person would say no. Nora knew that much. Random military admirals didn't bequeath advanced warships to strangers. But then again, sensible people didn't exile themselves to remote space stations to fix leaky pipes. "I accept," she heard herself say. "Very good, be prepared for departure in 6 hours." The transmission ended abruptly. Nora stared at the blank screen. What had she just agreed to? The transport that arrived was sleek, black, and clearly military-grade. Its engines barely whispered as it docked with Epsilon 9. The pilot was a stone-faced woman who introduced herself only as Commander Tells and informed Nora that the journey would take approximately 12 hours in hyperspace. 12 hours to contemplate the absurdity of her situation. 12 hours to wonder why Admiral Orion, a man she'd never met, had chosen her as the heir to one of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. When the transport emerged from hyperspace, Nora pressed her face against the viewport and gasped. The Helios was unlike any ship she had ever seen. Most military vessels were angular, utilitarian things, but the Helios was curved and elegant, its hull a deep midnight blue with subtle iridescent patterns that seemed to shift with the light. Despite its beauty, the ship radiated power, its weapons systems clearly visible along the sleek hull. The transport docked with practiced precision, and Commander Tells escorted Nora through the airlock. The interior of the Helios was surprisingly sparse, minimalist corridors with soft, ambient lighting that adjusted as they walked. "Where is everyone?" Nora asked, noticing the emptiness. "The Helios operates with a minimal crew," Commander Tells replied. "The ship's systems handle most functions." They arrived at what appeared to be the command center, a circular room dominated by a central chair surrounded by holographic displays. A woman in a crisp uniform stood waiting, her posture military straight, her face composed but curious. "Ms. Valdez," she said, stepping forward. "I'm Lieutenant Petra Kell, Executive Officer of the Helios. Welcome aboard." Nora shook the offered hand. "I think there's been a mistake. I don't know Admiral Orion. I've never served in the military. I'm just a mechanic." Lieutenant Kell smiled slightly. The Admiral was very specific in his instructions. He said you would say exactly that. What? Please sit, Lieutenant Kell gestured to the central chair. This is the neural interface point. It will allow you to connect directly with the Helios systems. Nora approached the chair cautiously. Neural interface, you mean like a mind link? The Helios is unique, Lieutenant Kell explained. Its primary systems are controlled through a neural connection with its commander. Admiral Orion designed it this way to prevent unauthorized access or control. And you think I can just connect with it? The Admiral believed so. With hesitation, Nora sat in the command chair. It adjusted immediately to her body, more comfortable than she expected. Hidden panels slid open on the armrests, revealing what looked like handprints etched into the surface. Place your hands on the interfaces, Lieutenant Kell instructed. The initial connection can be intense. Taking a deep breath, Nora placed her hands on the panels. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the world exploded behind her eyes. Information flooded her consciousness. Ship schematics, weapon systems, life support, engine output, crew manifests, star charts, navigational data, all pouring into her mind simultaneously. She gasped, her back arching as her mind struggled to process the torrent of data. And beneath it all, a presence, vast, ancient, and curious. It examined her, sifted through her memories, her knowledge, her emotions, with the cool detachment of an entity that wasn't quite human. And then, unexpectedly, it welcomed her. Authentication complete, neural interface established. Welcome, Commander VALDZ. The flood receded, the information organizing itself into manageable streams at the edges of her awareness. Nora opened her eyes, breathing heavily. What was that? She managed to ask. Lieutenant Kell was watching her with undisguised surprise. The Helios has accepted you. This is unexpected. Unexpected how? The neural interface requires genetic authorization. Only those with specific genetic markers can link with the ship. Admiral Orion's markers were supposed to be unique. A new voice spoke, a tall, gray-haired man who had entered the command center silently. The ship has chosen, he said, his voice gruff. That's all that matters. Lieutenant Kell straightened. Commander Valdez, this is Chief Security Officer Roan Davik. Davik studied Nora with piercing blue eyes. You don't look like much, he said bluntly, but neither did the Admiral when he first took command. Before Nora could respond, an alarm sounded shrill and urgent. Lieutenant Kell moved quickly to one of the consoles. Multiple vessels appearing on long-range sensors, she reported. Configuration matches Scorpion Syndicate ships. They're moving to intercept. The Syndicate, Davik growled. How did they find us? Unknown, but they're targeting our position. Nora felt a pulse of warning from the ship's systems. Data flowing into her mind showing the approaching vessels, their weapons charging. They're after the Helios, she said, the knowledge somehow certain in her mind. They know about the transfer of command. Lieutenant Kell turned to her, expression grim. The Syndicate has been hunting the Helios since Admiral Orion disappeared. They want its technology. We need to move, Davik said, now. But Nora barely heard him. The ship was speaking to her, not in words but in concepts, images, feelings. Showing her systems she'd never imagined, capabilities beyond anything in her engineering experience. And among the flood of information, one clear message. I have been waiting for you, NORAVALDZ. You are the ones. Trial by fire. Nora's hands trembled over the neural interface panels. The approaching Syndicate ships were represented in her mind as angry red points of light, predators closing in on their prey. Through her connection with the Helios, she could sense the ship's readiness, weapon systems humming with potential energy, shields at maximum capacity. We've got 6 minutes before they're in weapons range, Lieutenant Kell announced, her voice steady despite the tension evident in her posture. Commander, your orders. Commander, the title felt foreign, a garment several sizes too large. Nora was an engineer, not a military officer. She fixed things, she didn't command warships or engage in space battles. What would Admiral Orion do? She asked, buying time. Davik snorted. The Admiral would already be executing a battle plan. I'm not the Admiral, Nora snapped, frustration cutting through her fear. I was fixing coolant pipes 6 hours ago. Lieutenant Kell moved to her side. The Helios has automated defense systems that can operate without your direct input, she explained. but evasive maneuvers will require your connection to the neural interface. Nora closed her eyes, focusing on the ship's presence in her mind. The Helios responded immediately, unfolding navigation systems, propulsion capabilities, and jump coordinates like origami blooming in her consciousness. We need to run, she decided. Plot a course away from populated areas. I don't want to lead them towards civilian targets. The Callisto Nebula, Lieutenant Kell suggested. It's uninhabited and the ionization field will disrupt their tracking systems. Do it, Nora ordered, feeling the ship respond to her decision. The engines powered up, a deep vibration she felt both physically and through the neural link. 5 Syndicate vessels, Davik reported, eyes on the tactical display. Heavy cruiser configuration, they're deploying fighters. The Helios accelerated smoothly, its advanced propulsion systems pushing them toward the distant nebula. But the Syndicate ships were adjusting course, spreading out to cut off their escape routes. They knew exactly where we'd be, Davik growled. We've got a leak somewhere. No time for that now, Lieutenant Kell said sharply. Missile lock from the lead vessel. Nora felt the warning through the ship's systems before the alarm sounded. Without thinking, she directed the Helios into a rolling, evasive pattern that no human pilot could have executed. The ship responded flawlessly, twisting through space as energy torpedoes streaked past. How did you do that? Lieutenant Kell asked, eyes wide. Nora shook her head, equally astonished. I don't know, it was like the ship knew what to do and I just allowed it. Impressive, Davik admitted grudgingly, but they're still gaining. Through the neural link, Nora could see the tactical situation deteriorating. The Syndicate ships were herding them away from the nebula, their formation too tight to slip through. They would be surrounded in minutes. We need to know what we're dealing with, she said. Lieutenant Kell, tell me about the Helios. What makes this ship so special that the Syndicate would risk an open attack? Kell hesitated, exchanging a glance with Davik. It's classified. I'm connected to the ship's brain, Nora countered. If I'm going to save us, I need to know what I'm working with. After a moment of internal debate, Kell nodded. The Helios isn't just advanced, it's revolutionary. The neural interface is only part of it. This ship has an experimental quantum displacement drive. Quantum displacement, Nora's engineering mind raced. That's theoretical technology. Not on the Helios, Kell replied. Admiral Orion was working on it when he disappeared. The drive allows the ship to essentially fold space around itself, traveling vast distances instantaneously. Not like conventional hyperspace jumps, this is something different. If the Syndicate gets that technology, Davik left the implications hanging. Nora felt the ship responding to her thoughts, systems activating as her mind explored the possibilities. The quantum displacement technology was there in the neural link, complex and beautiful in its elegant design. Why me? She asked suddenly. Why would Admiral Orion leave this ship to me? Before either officer could answer, the Helios shuddered violently. Warning signals flashed through Nora's mind as a direct hit registered on the port shields. Shields at 70%, Davik reported. They're targeting our engines. Another impact rocked the ship. Through the neural link, Nora felt the damage like it was happening to her own body, a searing pain across her awareness. We can't outrun them, she realized, and we can't fight all of them. In her mind, the ship seemed to whisper, showing her systems and capabilities she hadn't yet discovered. There was something there, something powerful but dangerous. The quantum displacement drive, she said, understanding flowing through the connection. Can we use it? It's not fully tested, Kell warned. Admiral Orion was still perfecting the calibration when he disappeared. We have no choice, Nora insisted. How do I activate it? Kell leaned over the console. The drive exists partially in normal space and partially in another dimension. Targeting is incredibly precise. One miscalculation and we could materialize inside a star. Another hit rocked the ship, more violent than before. Aft shields failing, Davik announced grimly, 2 minutes before they breached the hull. Nora took a deep breath and immersed herself fully in the neural link. The ship's consciousness expanded around her, revealing the quantum displacement drive, a system so complex it defied conventional understanding. Yet somehow it made sense to her. The mathematics, the quantum principles, the spatial folding mechanics, they flowed into her mind with perfect clarity. I can do this, she said, her voice distant to her own ears. Through the link, she began the intricate process of activating the drive. The ship's energy systems diverted power, the enormous quantum matrix humming to life. She plotted coordinates instinctively, her engineering background merging with the ship's knowledge. Energy buildup detected, Kell reported, voice tight with concern. Commander, the harmonics are fluctuating. The system is destabilizing. Nora barely heard her. She was deep in the ship's systems now, seeing the problem, a cascade failure building in the quantum matrix. Without thinking, she restructured the energy flow, bypassing conventional protocols and creating a new configuration based on pure engineering instinct. "What are you doing?" Davik demanded. "That's not the standard procedure." "Standard procedure is failing," Nora replied, her fingers dancing across the interface panels as her mind directed energy through new pathways. "I'm rerouting through the secondary plasma conduits and creating a feedback loop to stabilize the quantum field." It was the kind of solution that came from years of fixing broken systems with inadequate parts, improvisation born of necessity. The ship understood her intent, adapting to her modifications with surprising flexibility. The quantum drive's energy signature changed, steadying as her adjustments took effect. The Helios began to vibrate with power, space itself seeming to bend around the viewports. "Quantum field stabilizing," Kell announced, amazement in her voice. "How did you know to do that?" Before Nora could respond, a fragment of memory that wasn't her own flashed through her mind, hands making the same adjustments, a voice saying, "The conventional approach won't work. We need to think differently." Admiral Orion's memories. "Syndicate vessels closing," Davik shouted. "They're firing everything they've got." "Quantum displacement in 3, 2, 1, Nora said, bracing herself. Reality twisted. For an instant that stretched to infinity, the Helios existed everywhere and nowhere, the fabric of space folding around it like origami. Nora felt her consciousness expand with the ship, glimpsing the underlying structure of the universe before snapping back to normal space. The viewports showed unfamiliar stars. The Syndicate ships were gone. "We did it," Kell breathed, checking the navigation console. "We're 70 light-years from our previous position." Nora slumped in the command chair, exhausted. The neural link dimmed to a background hum as the ship's emergency systems compensated for the damage they'd sustained. "That was impossible," Davik said, staring at her. "What you did with the quantum drive, Admiral Orion spent years trying to solve that instability issue." "How did you know?" Kell asked softly. Nora shook her head, confusion evident on her face. "I don't know, it just made sense, like I'd done it before." Kell studied her for a long moment, then reached into her uniform pocket and withdrew a small data crystal. "The Admiral left this for you. He said to give it to you only after you'd successfully used the quantum drive." Nora took the crystal with trembling fingers. "He knew I would figure it out." "Apparently," Kell hesitated. "Commander, there's something you should know about Admiral Orion's research. He wasn't just developing new technology, he was exploring the nature of consciousness itself. The neural interface was designed to do more than control the ship." "What do you mean?" "The Admiral believed that consciousness could be transferred or at least shared through the right interface." Kell nodded toward the command chair. "That chair doesn't just connect you to the ship, it connects you to echoes of everyone who commanded it before you." The realization dawned on Nora slowly. "That's why I knew how to fix the quantum drive. I was accessing Admiral Orion's knowledge." Perhaps, Kell's expression was unreadable. "Or perhaps there's more to your connection with the Admiral than you realize." Nora inserted the data crystal into the console. A holographic image flickered to life, Admiral Jackson Orion, his face weathered but his eyes sharp and intelligent. "Hello, Nora," the hologram said. "If you're seeing this, then you've successfully activated the quantum displacement drive. Well done, I knew you could do it." "How?" Nora whispered. "How did you know me?" The hologram smiled as if anticipating her question. "You're probably wondering why I chose you. The truth is complicated and dangerous, too dangerous to explain fully in this message. What I can tell you is that we share more than you know. The neural patterns that allow you to interface with the Helios are identical to mine, a genetic impossibility unless." The hologram flickered, the message corrupted at the critical moment. "Unless what?" Nora demanded. "Find me," the Admiral's image continued after the disruption. "The Helios knows the way. Trust the ship, trust your instincts, and remember, nothing in this galaxy is what it seems, especially not your past. The hologram disappeared, leaving Nora with more questions than answers. Set a course for the Andromeda outpost, she said after a moment of silence. If Admiral Orion left any other records, that's where they'll be. As the Helios adjusted its course, Nora felt the ship's consciousness brushing against hers, curious, comforting, and somehow familiar. Whatever connection she shared with Admiral Orion, whatever secrets lay in her past, the answers awaited among the stars. And this time, she wouldn't be facing them alone.